The morning sun slipped through the cracks in the clay walls, casting soft golden lines across Amara's bare belly as she stirred beneath the raffia mat. She groaned, turning slightly, her hand landing on the hardened swell of her pregnancy. She called, her voice sharp like a drumbeat. "Och!" Outside, her husband paused mid-swing of his cutlass, slicing cassava stems by their hut. His thick arms glistened with sweat, muscles tight from years of hunting. He dropped the cutlass immediately and rushed inside. "Is it the baby?" he asked, crouching beside her. "No," she muttered, then winced dramatically. "I need roasted rabbit meat. Right now." OC blinked. "Rabbit, again. I want it now. With pepper and bitter leaf, like Mama used to make. If I don't eat it, this child might come out with no legs." She rolled on the mat, kicking her feet, like a child. Oxide. There would be no peace until he returned from the forest with Rabbit. Again he kissed her forehead gently. "I'll go." He didn't ask questions anymore. Ever since Amara found out she was pregnant after 2 long years of waiting, fasting, and visiting shrines, her cravings had become wild. Monkey pepper soup, grilled pangolin, fresh antelope heart. Some villagers whispered she wasn't growing a child, but an entire football team in her womb. Amara didn't care. She was glowing. She laughed louder, smiled more, and ate as if she'd swallowed a king. Give her whatever she wants. The village elder once told Och, "Let her body lead the way. Strange cravings bring strong children." So Och obeyed. He hunted daily, growing lean while she grew round and radiant. But nothing prepared him for the day she woke up 3 days before her due date. Eyes wild, lips dry, and said the words that made his blood run cold. "I want giraffe meat." Och dropped the bowl he was holding. "Amara," he said, "there are no giraffes in these parts. Even if there were, do you want me to die in the bush?" "I will die first," she wailed, clutching her stomach. "Let the child come out, with 1 eye and 3 legs. You don't care." And then she stopped eating. She stopped speaking. She lay like stone, eyes dull, breath shallow. The village panicked. Elders came. Women begged. Nothing worked. Giraffe, meat, or no peace. She whispered again and again. Desperate, OCH gathered 4 of his strongest hunter friends. They ventured deep into unfamiliar terrain, where trees grew thick and beasts roamed unseen. For 2 days, they searched, slept in the mud, and stalked every strange footprint, until finally, at a quiet stream, they found one. A tall, graceful giraffe, sipping water like royalty. Bringing it down wasn't easy. They returned, bruised and battered but triumphant. When Amara saw the meat, her eyes lit up. She clapped and danced with her massive belly jiggling like a calabash. She cooked it with a goosey soup and pounded yam, humming songs only she knew. She ate in silence, fingers greasy, plate empty. "Now," she said, licking her lips, "I can give birth in peace." 2 days later, she went into labor. The midwife arrived at dawn. Women held her legs, whispered prayers. Och paced outside, muttering God's names under his breath. Then the cry came. A sharp, powerful wail. "It's a girl," the midwife announced. Cheers erupted. Amara collapsed, sweaty but smiling. Then came the gasp. What is this?" The room fell silent. The baby's neck was long, too long, almost unnatural, like something out of a story told to frighten children. "Is she healthy?" Amara asked, breathless. Yes. Yes, she is," the midwife whispered, trying to smile, but words spread fast. By sunset, half the village had heard. By nightfall, people were whispering about the giraffe meat. She ate it, while pregnant. That's why. Amara's joy curdled. Och held the child close, his eyes full of silent love. But Amara couldn't look her daughter in the face. The baby was named Kamsi, but Amara barely called her by name. She cried in the night, sat alone during the day, and when the villagers stared, she pulled her wrapper tighter. 1 week later, Amara stared at her baby, sleeping peacefully in a raffia basket. Her small hands waved weakly, her tiny neck tilted unnaturally to the side. "You brought shame into my life," Amara whispered, voice shaking. "You turned me into a joke." She didn't sleep that night. She waited. When Och left for the forest the next morning, she wrapped Kamsi in cloth, tied her on her back, and slipped into the bush. No bag, no water, no goodbye. She walked far deeper than the hunters ever dared. Birds chirped, leaves crackled. No one saw her. Near a narrow footpath, she stopped, She untied the baby, laid her gently beneath a wide tree, covered her with a wrapper. "You will thank me one day," she whispered, then ran. Back in the village, she screamed, "Help, my baby is gone." People ran, she wailed. She rolled on the ground. "Kidnappers," someone shouted. "Wickedness," said another. Amara cried until her voice cracked. But deep in her heart, she felt peace. No more shame, no more long neck, no more mockery. But far away, in the bush, the child cried, softly, weakly, until someone heard. Dinma. She was returning from her lonely farm, a sack of cassava on her head. Her wrapper faded from years of sun. She had no husband, no children. People called her barren. She heard the sound. She stopped. A baby. She whispered. She dropped the sack and ran toward the sound. And there beneath the tree was a child. She gasped, bent down. The neck was long, but Dinma didn't scream. She didn't back away. "Oh my God," she said, voice breaking. "Who would do this?" The baby's eyes met hers. Dinma's heart cracked open. "I don't care what you look like," she whispered. "You're mine now." She tied the baby to her back and walked home, heart pounding. That night, she fed her pap. She wrapped her in warm cloth. She smiled and whispered, "Chisaram, that will be your name. It means God answered me." She stared at her all night, listening to her breathing, watching her chest rise and fall. And she made a vow, "No matter what happens, I will never let you go." The mornings in Dinma's compound always began with laughter. At least, that's how she intended it. Even before the rooster crowed, she'd be humming a tune, stirring pap in a rusty pot, her wrapper tied tight around her waist, her bare feet moving swiftly across the clay floor. "Zara," she'd call cheerfully. "Time to wake up, my sunshine." Zara, now 6, would yawn and stretch, her long neck gently curving as she sat up on the mat. "Good morning, Mama," she'd say, her voice still soft with sleep. Dinma would smile and kneel beside her, brushing stray hairs from her daughter's forehead. "Another day for the world to see how beautiful you are." But outside their home, the world was less kind. The first time Dinma took Zara to the village primary school, she braided her hair neatly and scrubbed her skin with warm water and soap made from palm ash. She smoothed her uniform carefully, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "Remember, your name is Chisaram, a gift, a testimony." Zara nodded, eyes bright with hope. That hope lasted exactly 7 minutes. As soon as she entered the classroom, a boy stood and shouted, "Hey, giraffe girl." Another covered her mouth to laugh. "Her neck is taller than the blackboard." The laughter spread like fire. Some children mimicked animal sounds, others pointed and whispered. The teacher, caught off guard, tried to hush them, but the damage had already begun. Zara stood still, her cheeks burning, her small fists clenched. When she got home that day, she burst into tears before she could even take off her sandals. "They laughed at me, Mama," she sobbed. "They said I look like a giraffe." Dinma wrapped her arms around her. "Don't mind them, my love. They laugh because they are small. One day, they will look up and see how far above them you truly are." But it didn't stop. In the schoolyard, no one wanted to hold her hand during games. "Go and play with the trees," a boy sneered. "They're your neckmates." In the village square, when she went to fetch water, the girls at the stream turned away and giggled. One day, a group of them began to chant, "Neck like a ladder, neck like a pole. If she bends down, she'll touch a mole." Zara dropped her calabash and ran home. That night, she asked Dinma, "Why did my real mother not want me? Was it because of my neck?" Dinma's heart shattered, but her voice remained steady. "No, my daughter. Your mother lost a diamond and didn't know, but I knew. From the moment I saw you under that tree." Zara blinked. "But, don't you think my neck is too long?" Dinma cupped her chin. "No, I think your neck is long enough to reach heaven and hear God faster than the rest of us." Zara giggled through her tears, but the sadness never really left. By the time she turned 12, she'd stopped trying to make friends. She kept her head down in public. At school, she sat at the edge of every bench. She walked quickly to avoid crowds. If someone looked at her, she looked away. One afternoon, as she walked past a group of boys playing football, a ball accidentally bounced toward her. She bent to pick it up. "Hey, careful," one shouted. "Her neck might wrap around it." The boys howled with laughter. Zara dropped the ball and ran. Back home, she buried herself in Dinma's arms. "I don't want to go back. I want to stay here with you, forever. Dinma kissed the top of her head. Even if the world is cruel, you cannot hide from it. You are not meant to shrink. You are meant to shine. Zara tried. Truly, she did. But pain settled deep inside her. It grew quietly, like weeds in a garden. And even the warmth of Dinma's love couldn't stop it completely. She began to speak less, smile less, eat less. One day, Dinma noticed Zara, staring into the small piece of mirror they kept hanging on the wall. What do you see? Dinma asked gently. My neck, Zara whispered. Just my neck. Dinma walked over and touched her shoulders. Then look again. They stood there for a long time, staring at the reflection. A tall, slender girl, sharp eyes, smooth skin, and a neck that refused to be hidden. God does not make mistakes, Dinma said, but he made me different. Yes, because he needed someone strong enough to carry a miracle in full view of the world. Zara blinked back tears. But I don't want to be a miracle. I just want to be normal. Dinma's voice cracked. Maybe you weren't born to be normal. Maybe you were born to be unforgettable. That night, Zara laid awake long after Dinma had fallen asleep. She listened to the crickets, stared at the rafters above, and imagined what it would be like to have a short neck, to wear scarves that didn't look like bandages, to walk into a room without heads turning. But then she remembered Dinma's words, unforgettable. She wasn't sure she believed it, but for the first time, she wanted to try. The next morning, she wore a red scarf, straightened her back, and walked to school with her head high. That same day, the insults returned, softer, but still there, still sharp. Zara didn't cry this time. She sat at her desk, took her book, and stared out the window. And far away, in the direction of the market, a boy named Awara passed by, carrying a sack of rice. He looked up briefly and saw her. Their eyes met for a moment. Zara looked away, quickly, but he kept looking, and then he smiled. Zara wasn't used to being noticed, especially not by someone like Awara. He was the kind of man who made entire conversations stop when he walked through the market hall, smooth-skinned and always dressed in clean wrappers with a hint of perfume that floated behind him like royalty, son of a gold merchant, heir to a flourishing business, and Isali, the most eligible bachelor in Umagol village. But he was also kind, and that confused Zara the most. The first time he spoke to her, it was at the stream. Zara was crouched near the rocks, her scarf damp with sweat, and her neck folded slightly forward as she scrubbed bitter leaves. The other girls had just whispered and giggled their usual insults when she heard a calm voice behind her. Good afternoon, Zara. She turned, startled. Awara stood there, holding a leather bag and a basket of vegetables. She blinked. Good afternoon. You dropped this, he said, holding up her small wooden bracelet. She hadn't even noticed it fall. Thank you, she mumbled, snatching it gently from his hand and looking down. He smiled. You're always here early. It's good to be disciplined. She didn't respond. Her pulse was thudding too loud to think. After he walked away, the other girls swarmed in. Did he really talk to you? One said. Maybe he mistook her for a tree. Another laughed. With that neck, who knows what he sees? Zara bit her lip and finished her washing in silence. But that wasn't the end. Every week, Awara would pass by Dinma's compound and drop small gifts at the gate. Nothing extravagant at first. A bag of rice, a bottle of oil, some dried fish. Dinma was the first to notice. Zara, she called one morning. Did you say anything to that Awara boy? No, Zara said quickly. Why? Because this man keeps dropping food by our door like a son-in-law in training. Zara flushed. He's just being polite. Dinma raised an eyebrow. Polite boys don't give perfume and wrappers. Indeed, a few days later, 2 new pieces of fine cloth arrived, and a small packet of chin-chin tied with gold ribbon. Zara panicked. Return them, she said firmly. We don't need his pity. Dinma touched her arm gently. Maybe it's not pity. Zara turned away. Mama, look at me. No man wants a girl like me. They laugh at me. They call me names. I won't be a joke in someone's house. Dinma said nothing at first. Then she held Zara's face in both hands. You are not a joke. You are a woman, a good one, and maybe, just maybe, someone sees it. But not everyone shared Awara's vision. Chisholm, the self-proclaimed queen of the village girls, had always believed Awara would be hers. Her beauty was undeniable. Eyes, proud posture, lips always painted red. She wore beads in her hair and gold earrings that shimmered in the sun. She saw Zara as nothing more than an insect, one that needed squashing. So, one hot afternoon, she stormed into Dinma's compound with two of her loudest friends. Zara was outside, helping wash cassava. "Well, well," Chisholm said, clapping her hands. "So this is the giraffe's nest." Zara froze. Dinma stood, squinting under the sun. "You think because Awara gave you some rice and chinchin, you're his wife now?" Chisholm hissed. Zara stayed quiet. Her hands trembled in the soapy basin. "Let me warn you," Chisholm continued, stepping closer. "Stay away from my man, or next time, I'll come with Cain." One of her friends added, "With that long neck, she'll finish all his food before marriage." The laughter pierced Zara's chest. Dinma stepped forward. Her voice was calm but steely. "My daughter did nothing wrong. We didn't beg Awara for anything." Chisholm snorted. "Of course you didn't. Maybe he likes zoo animals." Zara ran inside, tears burning her face. Dinma remained rooted, eyes hard. "Get out." The girls laughed and walked away, shaking, their heads inside. Zara sat curled in a corner, knees to her chest. "Mama," she whispered, "why do they hate me?" Dinma sat beside her, pulling her close. "They fear what they don't understand, and some hearts are too small to see greatness." "I didn't ask for this neck," Zara said bitterly. "I didn't ask for this life. But it's the life you have," Dinma replied softly. "And I swear to you it is still a beautiful one." Zara refused to come out for days. When Awara sent more gifts, she didn't even touch them. Dinma had to hide the food in the kitchen so Zara wouldn't throw it away. But Awara didn't stop. One day he came himself. Dinma was sweeping the compound when she saw him approaching. She grinned. "Ah, welcome, my son. Come in, come in." He handed her a small basket. "For you and Zara, just some plantain and roasted chicken." "She's inside," Dinma said, voice dropping, "but she's shy." "I understand," Awara said. "Just tell her I came to greet her. No pressure." He bowed politely and walked away. From behind the curtain, Zara had seen it all. Her breath caught in her throat. That night, she sat in silence by the fire. "He'll get tired soon," she whispered. Dinma shook her head. "Maybe, but not because of your neck. Don't push away people who care, Zara. Life is too short." Still, Zara remained guarded, but fate wasn't done with her. A few days later, as she helped Dinma at the stream, Chisholm returned with fire in her eyes. Zara saw them too late. They walked in with buckets and pride, their voices loud and pointed. "Look, who still shows her face?" Chisholm sneered. "After everything I said." "I didn't ask for anything," Zara muttered. "I didn't take him, but you took the food. You and your hungry mother." Zara's fists clenched. "Don't talk about my mother." "Or what?" Chisholm stepped closer. "You'll strangle me with your giraffe neck." Laughter, always. Laughter. Zara picked up the wet clothes and ran. No one stopped Chisholm. No one helped. Back home, Zara collapsed in tears. "I don't want him. I don't want his gifts. I just want peace." Dinma knelt beside her, voice trembling. "Maybe, my daughter, maybe you weren't born to be normal. Maybe you were born to be extraordinary." Zara looked up. "Why me?" "I don't know," Dinma whispered. "But I know this. The world will either break you or watch you rise. And you, Zara. I believe you will rise." For the first time in days, Zara didn't cry. That evening, as the fire crackled and frogs croaked outside, Zara whispered something Dinma never thought she'd hear. "Mama. Maybe I do want to be loved." Dinma looked up, eyes wide. "I'll give him a chance," Zara said, voice shaking. But slowly, Dinma stood up and danced, laughing through her tears. "Thank you, God. My daughter will wear a wedding cloth." Zara laughed too, and though it was small and uncertain, it was real. The day Zara became a bride, the sun refused to hide. Its light poured over the rooftops, turning palm fronds to gold and clay houses to ember. The air buzzed with music, ululations, and the pounding of yam in giant mortar. Smoke rose from outdoor fires, thick with the scent of agouti, spicy jollof, and grilled bushmeat. But nothing and no one shined like Zara. She stepped into the courtyard in a white flowing gown, simple but majestic. Her long neck, once the source of so much ridicule, now shimmered with rows upon rows of golden necklaces. The chains climbed from her collarbone to the base of her jaw, each layer heavier, more regal than the last. The crowd gasped as one. "Ah, is this not the same girl we mocked?" A woman whispered, "Even queens from the city don't shine like this." Another said, eyes wide with disbelief. Zara didn't look at them. She walked slowly, with the grace of a woman who had finally accepted her space in the world. Awara stood by the altar, wrapped in deep blue fabric embroidered with silver thread. His smile never left his face as she approached, and when she took his hand, he bowed slightly, whispering, "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Zara smiled back, not broadly, just enough. The ceremony was grand, unlike anything Umago had seen. Villagers climbed trees to catch a glimpse. Children sat on rooftops. Even strangers from nearby villages gathered. The compound was covered in colorful wrappers and palm fronds. Drummers played until their hands bled, and dancers moved like spirits in a trance. But amid all the celebration, Zara stayed grounded. She didn't boast. She didn't gloat. She simply existed, proud, silent, golden dot. By sunset, she was no longer the girl with the long neck. She was Zara, the golden-necked queen of the village. The months that followed were filled with quiet joy. Zara moved into Awara's spacious home, a proper house with tile floors, wide windows, and miraculously, a private well that never dried. Dinma came too, treated like royalty by her new son-in-law. Zara still wore scarves around her neck, but sometimes she let them fall away. "Let them see," she told Dinma one afternoon as they pounded yam together. "Let them see and wonder." But joy is often tested. 3 months into their marriage, the skies changed. Clouds turned pale. The rains stopped. 1 week passed, then 2, then 5. The soil hardened, rivers thinned to mud, crops withered, chickens died, goats roamed thinner and thinner. A famine arrived not as a scream, but as a slow, silent thief. Villagers who once walked tall now staggered under the sun, their cheeks hollow, their pots empty. But not Zara's household. Awara, ever the planner, had filled 2 large warehouses with food before the dry season began. He dug a deep well behind their house, lined with stone, so the water never ran dry. At first, they kept quiet, but the cries grew louder. Neighbors knocked, strangers begged. Zara heard it all from behind her gate, from her window in her dreams. One morning, she stood at the entrance to the compound, baskets at her feet. "Open the gates," she said. Dinma turned. "Zara, open them. We have enough. We share." From that day, Zara and Dinma began handing out food. Gari, yam, rice, clean water in clay pots. Not just to friends, but to everyone. Even the ones who once laughed. Even the ones who called her giraffe. They came silently, eyes cast downward, holding out empty bowls. She gave them food. She gave them dignity. She said nothing. She didn't need to. One afternoon, an old man appeared at the gate. His clothes were dusty, his hands trembled, his face was gaunt and sun-baked. Zara was on the veranda, wiping sweat from her forehead when she saw him. "Please," he croaked, "I haven't eaten since morning. Just water, if nothing else." Zara rose, walked down the steps, and looked at him closely. There was something about his eyes, tired, kind, familiar. His shoulders stooped in a way that reminded her of someone. But she said nothing. "Mama," she called softly. Dinma stepped out. "Yes, give him food, and a place to sit. Let him rest." The man sat on the ground, legs stretched, a cup of water in his hands. As he ate slowly, he kept glancing at Zara. "What a beautiful woman," he muttered. "Her neck is long, like my daughter's would have been." If only Zara tilted her head. "What did you say?" The man shook his head. "Forgive me, just talking nonsense. Thank you for your kindness." She nodded and walked away, heart pounding for reasons she couldn't explain. That night, she couldn't sleep. Something about the man tugged at her thoughts like a thread she couldn't find the end of. More days passed. The line at their gate grew longer. Even Chisholm came. She arrived with her 2 friends, heads down, wrappers covering their faces. Zara stood on the balcony. Chisholm didn't speak. She only stretched out her hand. Zara didn't flinch. She nodded at Dinma, who handed over gari beans and a bar of soap. Chisholm took the items and turned to leave. Her friends tried to smile. Zara didn't. "Return it." Later, Dinma said, "You had every right to send them away." Zara stared at the horizon. "No, I had every reason, but not every right." The village began to change. People who once whispered insults now bowed respectfully. Mothers told their daughters to be like Zara. Men greeted her with lowered voices. But she never forgot the pain. She carried it not as a burden, but as a reminder. One evening, as she lit a lamp inside the living room, Dinma walked in with a tired sigh. "Your father came again," she said. Zara looked up. "Awara, no, the old one, the man who looks like a tree." Zara laughed. "That's unkind." Mama Dinma smiled gently. "There's something about him, the way he talks about a daughter he lost." Zara's smile faded. "Lost? He said he once had a baby girl, but she vanished. He never found her." Zara frowned. Her hand rested on her long neck. "Did he say her name?" "No," Din said, voice soft. "But he said her neck was long." The room fell silent. Zara stared at the lamp. The flame flickered like her thoughts. "Mama," she whispered, "do you think it's possible?" Dinma didn't answer. She just walked over, sat beside her daughter, and took her hand. "Sometimes the truth comes like a storm. Other times it waits quiet, patient as seeds do beneath the earth." The rain returned one late afternoon, not with thunder or fury, but as a gentle wash over the thirsty land. It drummed softly on rooftops, kissed cracked soil back to life, and filled the air with the scent of promise. Zara stood barefoot in her garden, face tilted upward, arms open. Her long neck rose into the rain like a flag raised high. Beads of water clung to her skin, sliding down her golden chains, some of which she no longer removed, not out of pride, but because they had become part of her. She no longer hid, she no longer bowed, she no longer ran. Behind her, the house buzzed with life, laughter in the kitchen, pots clanging, Dinma's voice humming an old lullaby as she folded wrappers by the window. Zara stepped inside, shaking the rain from her scarf. "Mama," she called softly. Dinma turned, her face worn but full of light. I've been thinking about everything." Dinma nodded, setting down the cloth. Zara sat beside her. "There are still children who look in mirrors and cry, who sit alone during games, who hear laughter and wonder if it's about them." Dinma listened in silence. "I was one of them. And if you hadn't found me, if you hadn't stayed," she trailed off. Her hand found Dinma's. "I want to give them what you gave me." Dinma's eyes filled with tears. "What will you do, my daughter?" "I want to build a school for the forgotten, the mocked, the different. A place where no one laughs at your shape or name or skin or story." Dinma exhaled slowly. "Then that's what you must do." The idea started as a whisper, then it became a conversation, then a plan. Zara called it House of Light. The villagers were confused at first. "A school," one elder said. "But we already have one." "Not like this," Zara replied. She used a portion of her dowry to buy land on the edge of the village, once overgrown, now cleared by volunteers who had once been her enemies. She built it from clay and bamboo, but the front gates were carved. With her story, a tall woman, arms outstretched, children at her feet. Every day, more came, children with limps, stutters, scars, missing parents, missing hope. And Zara welcomed them all. But even as her legacy grew, a single question lingered, like smoke behind her ribs. "Who am I?" She had accepted that she might never know, that some stories remain unfinished, until one morning, as she sat beneath the udalai tree in the school courtyard, Ok arrived again. He walked slower now, his clothes still torn, but cleaner, his beard grayer, his eyes softer. Zara greeted him with a calm nod. "Welcome." He bowed deeply. "My queen." She smiled politely. "We've shared many meals, but I don't know your name." "Ok," he said, quietly. "I was once a hunter." Her fingers paused in her lap. She had heard that name before, long ago, in the whispers of a memory. From a woman's cracked voice, soaked in guilt. Zara's breath caught. "And your wife, what was her name?" "Amara," he replied. "She died many years ago." He looked down. "She gave birth to a girl, a strange girl, people said, with a long neck. Amara couldn't handle the shame. One day the baby disappeared. Stolen, we thought. We searched, but." His voice broke. Zara stared at him. Her heart beat louder than the wind. "And this girl," she whispered, "what did you name her?" "Kamsi," he said, a sad smile on his lips. "But it never felt like she was mine long enough." Zara stood slowly, her hands trembling. Dinma had come to the doorway, her eyes full. "She wasn't stolen," Zara said. Okeki looked up. "She was left." He blinked. "What?" Zara walked to him, her gold chains brushing against her dress. "She was left," she repeated, "at the foot of a tree." Silence. Then, barely above a breath, "How do you know?" Zara touched her own chest. "Because I was that girl. The old man's face crumpled. His knees buckled. He dropped to the ground, shaking, sobbing into his hands. "I didn't know," he cried. "My God, I didn't know." Zara crouched beside him, tears in her eyes. "You couldn't have." He looked up, eyes flooded. "Can you ever forgive us?" Zara nodded slowly. "There is nothing left to forgive." Dinma walked forward and placed her hand on both their shoulders. No words were needed. The truth had found its way home. Word spread, not about the scandal, but about the mercy. They said Zara, the golden-necked queen, had embraced her past and made peace with her beginning, that she carried no hate, that she had become greater than any curse, more graceful than any insult, and children came more and more. Some with birthmarks shaped like continents, others with missing teeth, oversized ears, crooked feet. Zara greeted each one personally. "You're beautiful," she'd say. "Don't ever forget that." Years passed. Zara grew older. Her name became legend. Her school expanded now with 3 buildings and a library with books she helped write. One was called The Girl Who Touched the Sky. Inside its pages, a tall girl stood atop a hill, her neck long enough to reach the clouds, her heart wide enough to carry them. One evening, she stood at the gate of the school, watching the children play. One of them, a shy boy with uneven legs, ran to her and wrapped his arms around her knees. "Auntie Zara," he whispered, "do you really hear God faster with your neck?" Zara laughed. "Maybe," she said, "but more than that, I hear you." He giggled and ran off, his laughter echoing under the purple sky. Behind her, Dinma sat on a wooden stool, hands resting on her lap, eyes closed in peace. Zara turned to look at her. "You see, Mama, I didn't become normal." Dinma opened her eyes and smiled. "Thank God for that." Zara walked to her, bent slightly just enough and rested her head on Dinma's shoulder. The sun sank behind the hills, casting a long golden shadow across the earth. It looked, for just a moment, like a neck stretched toward heaven. If you made it to the end, comment the word Skyreach, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with your friends and family.